Did you know a single oyster can filter up to 50 gallons of water a day, and that billions of them are farmed every year to feed seafood lovers around the world? From microscopic larvae in high-tech hatcheries to baskets of plump oysters hauled from the sea, and finally to the precise, fast-paced processing lines in seafood factories, this is the incredible journey of the oyster. Let's crack it open. Did you know oysters are way cooler than they look? These humble shellfish are actually tiny underwater superheroes, since a single oyster can filter up to 50 gallons of water per day. And here's the fun twist. Oysters are gender fluid. Most start life as males and switch to female as they grow, and some even flip back and forth. Plus, they don't have a central brain, but they can still sense light, movement, and even chemicals in the water. But wait, there's more. Oysters form massive reefs, kind of like coral reefs, that provide safe havens for hundreds of marine species like fish, crabs, and shrimp. These reefs also protect shorelines from erosion by breaking waves. And finally, they've been around for over 500 million years, which means oysters have survived multiple mass extinctions. So next time you slurp one down, remember you're eating a water-purifying, reef-building, gender-bending marvel of the sea. The oyster hatchery process starts with carefully chosen broodstock healthy, strong oysters picked for breeding. These VIP oysters are placed in tanks with warm, food-rich water to trigger spawning. Males and females release sperm and eggs into the water, where fertilization happens naturally. A single female can release millions of eggs. Once fertilized, the baby oysters called larvae float around for a few weeks, developing tiny shells and eventually finding a hard surface to settle on. These baby oysters get a steady diet of yummy microalgae and lots of TLC. As they grow, they start forming their first teeny-tiny shells-like adorable mini versions of their parents. Once the larvae are ready, they settle onto small surfaces and begin their journey as spat. From there, they move into a nursery system where they keep growing until they're strong and big enough for life in the wild or on an oyster farm. These hatchery-raised oysters are sent off to different growing areas where farmers use a variety of cool methods to raise them. One popular setup is the floating upweller system, where oysters live in floating tanks with constant water flow, helping them grow fast and healthy. Another method is the longline system, where oysters are tied in bunches along long ropes that hang below the water in intertidal zones. It's like oyster yoga stretching out on ropes, soaking up nutrients, and growing into tasty, eco-friendly powerhouses. Another popular oyster farming method is basket culture, where oysters grow inside mesh baskets that float or hang in the water. Each basket can hold anywhere from 100 to 200 oysters, giving them enough room to feed, grow, and tumble naturally with the currents. This method helps keep the oysters clean, well-shaped, and evenly grown. In some coastal areas where floating gear isn't practical, like places with strong tides or heavy boat, traffic farmers turn to the on-bottom method. This involves spreading or shoveling juvenile oysters directly onto the seabed, where they settle, grow, and thrive together just like they would in the wild. Harvest time for oysters is like payday for farmers. It usually happens once the oysters reach market size, which can take 12 to 24 months depending on the growing method and water conditions. When the time comes, fishers hop on their boats and head out to the farm. With a mix of muscle and machinery, they use gear systems like winches, conveyors, and even saw-toothed wheels to lift baskets or ropes full of oysters up from the water and onto the boat. It's a satisfying haul, as months of patient growing finally turn into a boatload of briny goodness. But not everything is high-tech. About 10–20% of the oysters are still hand-picked, especially the premium ones destined for fancy plates. These are carefully chosen for size and shape, giving a personal touch to an otherwise industrial process. Once the oysters are harvested, they're offloaded either right on the boat or back at the dockets like a mini oyster festival of crates, baskets, and busy hands. To keep the oysters fresh and alive for markets or special orders, fishers use clever wet storage methods. Some oysters go into special temperature-controlled tanks or tubs, while others are kept in mesh bags, suspended back into the bay, soaking in clean, natural water. These methods help the oysters stay healthy and tasty all the way to the customer's plate. After oysters are harvested, their shells don't go to waste, they get a second life. Farmers and conservation teams collect the used shells, clean off any leftover bits, and let them cure in the sun for a few months. Once they're all cleaned up, these shells are brought back into hatcheries, where they serve as the perfect surface for baby oysters to attach to and grow. It's a beautiful, sustainable cycle. And now, we're back at the processing facility where the freshly harvested oysters begin the next leg of their journey. First up, they get a good rinse in large wash tanks to remove any mud or debris. Then, machines carefully chip away and separate oysters that are clumped together. After that, it's grading time. Special graders sort each oyster based on size and quality with impressive precision. Once sorted, the oysters head to the shucking station, where one side of the shell is removed and a layer of ice is added to keep them fresh. From there, they're either packed as fresh oysters or flash frozen for delivery, ready to hit seafood markets and dinner tables far and wide. After the oysters are shucked and separated from their shells, they're given a careful rinse to remove grit and shell fragments. Then comes the packing process. Oysters are placed into containers filled with liquid to keep them fresh. But what's that liquid, you ask? It's not just plain water. It's typically a mix of filtered seawater or a saltwater brine, sometimes blended with the oyster's own natural juices, known as liquor. This flavorful liquid helps preserve the oyster's taste and texture, keeping that briny, ocean-fresh vibe alive right up to the moment they're cracked open for a meal. If you're ready to enjoy fresh oysters at home, you'll need to master the art of shucking. Grab an oyster knife, wrap the oyster in a towel with the hinge facing out, and carefully wiggle the knife into the hinge. Twist gently until it pops open, then slide the blade along the top shell to release the oyster. Voila! Fresh, briny goodness ready to slurp. Beyond enjoying oysters raw and briny straight from the shell, there are tons of delicious ways to cook them up. You can bake them with garlic, butter, and cheese, grill them with a splash of hot sauce and lemon, or deep fry them until crispy and golden. Some people love them broiled, steamed, or even tossed into a hearty seafood stew. However you like them, oysters are full of flavor.
Have you ever seen a pig tearing up a lawn like a bulldozer? Across 39 U.S. states, feral hogs are doing exactly that, ripping through fields, backyards, and even city parks. With numbers exploding from 2 million in 1990 to almost 9 million today, the problem is no longer rural. Let us know in the comments. Have you ever spotted one in your area? Feral hogs are now one of the most destructive invasive species in the United States. In the wild, these animals travel in large groups called sounders, rooting through forests and farmland like living plows. With their strong snouts, they dig deep into the ground in search of food, destroying native plants, spreading erosion, and damaging ecosystems in the process. In the U.S. alone, feral hogs cause an estimated $2.5 billion in agricultural and environmental damage each year. But the destruction doesn't stop in rural areas. In some cities, feral hogs have been spotted roaming through neighborhoods, overturning trash bins, tearing up lawns, and even threatening pets. Their ability to adapt makes them a problem almost anywhere: farms, forests, and now even suburban streets. To prevent the feral hog population from spiraling further out of control, experts estimate that 60 to 70% of all hogs must be removed every single year. That's nearly 6 million hogs just to break even. Because trapping alone can't meet that number, hunting has become a vital control strategy. In states like Texas, Georgia, and Florida, licensed hunters often partner with farmers to help reduce hog populations. These hunts are regulated by state authorities to ensure safety and impact. Hunters use a wide variety of tools, from rifles and shotguns to thermal scopes and night vision drones that help track hogs after dark. In some areas, hunters even take to the skies in helicopters, chasing fast-moving sounders across open terrain. With billions in damages each year, every successful hunt helps protect farmland and native ecosystems. For farmers, one of the most reliable tools is the corral trap, a large circular enclosure designed to catch entire groups of feral hogs at once. These traps are often equipped with trail cameras and remote-controlled gates, allowing the operator to spring the trap at just the right time. Because hogs are strong and clever, the walls are built with solid steel panels. Anything weaker can easily be broken through by these surprisingly agile animals. Another effective method is the drop-gate cage trap. This is a tough metal box baited with strong-smelling foods like fermented corn or sweet potatoes. When a hog steps on the pressure plate inside, the gate slams shut, fast and efficient. To keep hogs from escaping, these traps must be at least 5 feet high. In some regions, wildlife teams and farmers also use net traps. Camouflaged along feeding trails or in tall grass, net traps are triggered by motion sensors or remote control. While less common than steel cages, nets are lightweight, reusable, and excellent for catching fast or cautious animals. Once feral hogs are trapped, farmers and wildlife teams quickly move in to harvest the animals. In some cases, they are captured alive for research, relocation, or farming, especially in areas where wild hog meat is in demand. But more often, the priority is rapid population control. That's why on-site euthanasia is the standard method. Hogs are usually shot inside the trap to prevent escape and minimize stress. In Texas alone, over 750,000 feral hogs are killed each year, and even that isn't enough to keep their numbers in check. Surprisingly, feral hog meat is considered a delicacy in many places. After harvesting, some rural communities even roast the meat on site. It's lean, protein-rich, and surprisingly flavorful. A single full-grown hog can weigh over 300 pounds, producing enough meat to feed an entire gathering, making the hunt not just a necessity, but a shared reward.
Did you know that the global lobster market is worth over $6 billion a year? Or that a single lobster can sell for more than a luxury handbag in some countries? But behind every juicy lobster tail on your plate is a world you've probably never seen. Filled with underwater cages, late-night feedings, and incredibly skilled fishermen. In this video, we dive deep, literally, into the fascinating world of lobster farming and processing. Let's see how these ocean creatures are raised, cared for, harvested, and finally delivered fresh to your table. Get ready to have your mind blown about lobsters. Did you know these incredible creatures were once considered poor man's chicken, even fed to pigs and goats? And forget what you thought about their color. They're not naturally red. They can be green, yellow, or even a stunning blue, only turning that familiar crimson when cooked. Plus, they're quite the escape artists, able to swim both forward and backward, even scooting away in reverse when alarmed. Talk about surprising. These long-lived ocean dwellers can even reach up to 100 years old, sometimes growing to an astonishing 4 feet long. Lobster farming at sea? Oh yes, it's a real thing, and surprisingly popular in coastal areas where the waters are just right. In countries like Vietnam, Indonesia, and parts of Australia, you'll find bustling marine lobster farms, especially in sheltered bays with clean, warm waters. The two main styles of farming are pretty cool. You've got the classic wooden raft cages floating on the surface, and then there's the submersible net cages. Those hang below the surface like underwater apartments for lobsters to chill and grow. And let me tell you, picking the right baby lobsters is a big deal. Farmers carefully select strong, active young lobsters with no signs of disease or deformities, making sure there's a good mix of both sexes to boost growth and survival rates. Once chosen, these little clawed cuties are gently released into sea cages, either in floating wooden rafts or underwater net pens. Feeding lobsters is way more intense than you'd ever imagine. It's not just tossing in pellets and calling it a day. Lobster farmers go full-on seafood buffet mode. They prep hefty bags loaded with goodies like fish, snails, clams, mussels, even tiny crabs. Then hop onto their boat, heading out to the sea cages. But wait, before serving up the next seafood feast, there's cleanup duty to handle. Lobsters aren't exactly tidy eaters, so farmers have to clear out the leftovers from the previous meal. That means diving down and using their hands to scoop out and brush away the scattered shells of snails, clams, and other bits still hanging around in the cage. It's like underwater housekeeping. And while they're at it, farmers also take the time to check on the lobsters, observing their health, behavior, and making sure everything's okay. Once the cage is all clean and tidy, it's mealtime again. The farmers scatter those bags full of all kinds of tasty treats, and the hungry lobsters don't waste a second. They swarm in like little underwater beasts and dig in. Watching them eat is wild. They grab food with their powerful claws, crack it open, and munch away with surprising precision. It's like a crustacean buffet down there, messy, fierce, and oddly satisfying to witness. While the lobsters are busy feasting, the farmers check for any sick or dead lobsters and quickly remove them to prevent the rest of the gang from getting infected. Then they gather the unfortunate ones and release them into the ocean. Out there, fish and other creatures gladly accept the offering. Nothing goes to waste in this underwater ecosystem. Harvest day finally arrives. Lobsters are usually harvested once they've reached market size, typically around 0.3 to 0.5 kilograms each, depending on the target market. There are two main ways to do it. One, the farmers dive down with mesh bags, swimming through the sea like underwater treasure hunters, hand-picking the lobsters one by one. Or two, they haul the entire cage up onto the boat, hop inside, and gather the lobsters directly. Either way, it's a mix of hard work and excitement. Because hey, it's payday for all that underwater babysitting. When the lobsters finally make it back to shore, the work's still not over for our hardworking fishers. They've got to sort the lobsters by size and even by gender, carefully placing them into separate baskets. Then comes the weighing, super precise, because every kilo counts. Once that's done, they tie up the baskets securely with ropes and gently lower them into seawater tanks. Why? To keep the lobsters alive and kickin' all the way to the buyer. The most commonly farmed species are the ornate spiny lobster, scalloped spiny lobster, and sometimes painted spiny lobster. Different sizes, colors, growth rates, but all delicious and ready for their spotlight on the seafood stage. Ah, lobster, the superstar of the seafood world. You can grill it for that smoky, buttery flavor, steam it to keep all the sweet meat juicy and tender, or boil it the classic way with lemon and herbs. Feeling fancy? Try it baked with cheese and garlic, butter poached, or tossed into a luxurious lobster pasta or lobster bisque. Even a simple lobster roll can steal the show. Nutritionally, lobster is a winner too. It's low in fat, high in protein, and packed with good stuff like vitamin B12, selenium, zinc, and omega-3 fatty acids. So, have you ever tried lobster?